if you know where we are, we're coming up to the station.
Here we have a picture of the back of the station taken around 1950s, 51, 52 time, you can see by the car. And you can see quite clearly that it used to have a wooden cover here for pedestrians and what have you. The building itself is basically exactly the same, nothing's really changed. But obviously down here you can see the level crossing and all that is all gone. So now this station is called Luthenhoe, but originally it was called New Midland. The reason why it's called New Midland is because that's exactly where we are, at New Midland. It's not East Hyde is a mile further on. However, due to pressure from the people who owned Luthenhoe, they changed the name to Luthenhoe on the 1st of December 1891. Now the funny thing is that if you ever bought a train ticket from here to go anywhere, it still said New Midland right up until the early 1950s. Isn't that strange?
Of course we're being discreet because it's somebody's home, so we hope that gives you a good idea of the train station. They've just resurfaced this road as well, so we've got loose chickens everywhere. And everybody who's driving down this road is probably thinking, I wish I hadn't taken this road. So that's quite amusing.
And of course the funny thing is now, the road is about 10 times busier now than it ever was. Yet they had to put a level crossing in here, as we'll show you in a few seconds. Standing in the same spot today, this was a picture taken of the level crossing. This was one of about 4 level crossings that were actually on the line. This was manned by the people who owned or run Luthenhoe station itself. And as you can see, the road is actually quite narrow here. It was 2 gates, one way and one the other, rather than 4, and the same location today.
It's a lot wider, isn't it?
It is a lot wider.
We're right next to the station here. And as we step onto the actual level crossing and pivot right, we're on the track.
Again, taking us on the same spot, I would say this is probably in 1964, 1965 time. The reason saying that is all the good sidings here, that used to be a cattle dock or horse dock here for the horses, where Luthenhoe Estate used to send horses up to Newmarket for the races up there. But you can see it's all gone now, all cleared, and the track again is all gone. The level crossing gate was still in situ when this was taken. Again, all gone. Here again, in the same location, Luthenhoe had its own ground frame. Obviously this was controlling signals and point work into the cattle dock on the other side of the road. Now when Luthenhoe Station, or New Midland as it was originally called, was first opened, it did have a signal box, but it was decided in around 1920s, that's when the London and North Eastern Railway took over the line, that the signal box was no longer really needed and it could be controlled by a ground lever. Again, this was operation by the station manager from Luthenhoe itself. This is the location today.
More grass. Well, it's grass in the picture and there's grass here.
Yeah. Very quickly, we'll just show you this picture of the signal. This is the down home starter. So when a train pulled into Luthenhoe Station, it would stay there until this signal went down, not up, went down, because that's the way the somersault signals worked. And then the trains would depart to Luton. Incredibly, the signal post itself still remains, however, it's lying in there in the undergrowth.
Yeah, and we're not going in there, are we?
No. This is something we will have to come back a bit later on, maybe in the winter or early spring,
yeah,
and we can see it.
Yeah.
It's 27 foot long and weighs probably 1.5 tons.
Yeah. Yes. So it ain't going nowhere quick.
Ain't going nowhere quick, mate.
we've got this excellent picture of the station, and if you look closely you can see this is the gable bit here, but you can see they've done an extension and brought this part of the building out. This is the same, this is the same, and you can see the crease of the building there where the drain is coming down. That's where they brought the building out this way, bringing it closer to us. So there's been an extension.
Give the people who bought it more room, I suppose.
Yeah, a couple of foot makes all the difference when you're trying to get a bed in somewhere.
Indeed.
Should be. We used to be able to see the platform, but they've built out. Have they?
Oh, no, the bit of the platform. Well, it's behind there, literally.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't see it.
And it's under there. See, in winter you can.
Yeah.
Here you can quite clearly see a Luthenhoe station taken from the end of the platform. You can see quite clearly a Craven's DMU just about to depart on the up line towards Harpenden. Unfortunately, we can't replicate this picture in exactly the same way because it's all built on overgrown and what have you. Now, Luthenhoe is the only station that's still in situ, still complete. There were 7 stations originally on the branch line. All have disappeared except this one.
So it's lovely that we've still got this one.
Oh yeah, it's a bit of architecture. It's built to a sort of Great Northern design. Although, as I said before, the railway itself wasn't actually built by the Great Northern. It was built by a consortium called the Luton, Dunstable, Welling Junction Railway. But they surpassed themselves financially, and within a year it was taken over by the Great Northern. But this really is a Great Northern design building. Okay, we are now leaving Luthenhoe behind us and ever so slowly rising. We actually took, Luthenhoe was actually quite in a bit of a shallow recess because we crossed over the Lower Luton Road and the River Lee, then we went down to Luthenhoe station. Now we're actually climbing back out of Luthenhoe station. Now you can see clearly the path in front of us goes to the right. Well, the track bed itself originally went slightly to the left. Now in the 1990s, Luton Borough Council, or the waterworks I should say, decided that the sewer treatment works needed to be enlarging, and as part of the enlargement we actually took over some of the old track bed. So where we are now, we're ever so slightly to the right hand side of what was the track bed. The track bed being a bit further down there, where the sewer works are now.
Yeah, and believe me, it's a hot day and we know that we're at the sewage works.
Yes.
So no more.
Yeah, the track would have been roughly where that fence is, down there. Again, we're going to have to do this walk.
There we are, we can see. There we're good.
Yeah, would have been round there.
Just see the fence through there.
I am quite surprised though.
There we go, it's clear now, look.
Yeah, how quickly nature takes over, because when I did this walk last time in early April, there was hardly anything. You could see clearly the track itself, the track bed and the stations and what have you. How quick nature takes over. So we're actually now on top of what would have been the hill, whereas the track would have been slightly further down and just over to my right, about 10 yards over. You can see this blue parapet there.
Yeah.
That's where the track would have gone.
Right. You just see that blue shape behind through the foliage. Just see it, it's hard to see. I can see it with my eyes, but the camera's struggling with all the different colours. Just through there.
Yeah, through there.
Beyond this metal fence. On the left of that metal fence.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the tree line going on the left of it.
Yes, them trees would have been part of the the boundary of the railway line itself. So between us and the trees, the railway line would have been. This picture was taken outside one of the carriages as it was going up away from Luthenhoe towards Harpenden. You can see quite clearly in this picture the Midland main line and the bridge that we're about to pass under. This is the same picture, same location today.
So there's the curvature, and there's the Midland main line. Next stop, the bridge.
View from the same train as we are now about to go underneath the bridge. Again, from the same location today. Because of the overgrowth, you can't even see the bridge. It's gone.
But we want to show a little bit of perspective, because
it is an amazing piece of engineering. As we come up to the bridge, you can see that it's obviously plate girder on top of brick abutments, which was pretty standard in them days for the Midland when they built their bridges. Now, one thing I will say about this is, although you don't realise it, there's actually two bridges. The first one we're coming across is the original bridge, which was built in the late 1860s. When the Midland first built their railway line into London, it was only double track, up and down. But very, very quickly, the Midland realised that they need to quadruple the track because they just didn't have enough capacity. And so within about 20 years or so, you can see quite clearly that they actually built another bridge. Same location, same place, same kind of bridge, but about 20 years later.
which is why sunlight is coming through the gap,
Yep.
because actually it's two bridges.
And you can see they're actually on two different heights. Really is an amazing feat of engineering to think this was all hand built. I'm not entirely sure which number this is. I think this is probably bridge 126 and 126A coming from St Pancras. I could be wrong, but I think 127 is probably at New Mill End. So I think this is 126. There should be a plaque somewhere, but I can't find it. This picture was taken around 1960-61 time, showing quite clearly a Class 20 loco running light with just a brake van, probably heading up to Luton to collect the goods train. You can quite clearly see that we are standing on the River Lee Bridge, which is still here now, the Midland main line, again, which is still there now, and the main line going across the top. But unfortunately, being the middle of summer, this is the view now.
Yeah. You can hear the Midland main line. You can see actually the curvature of the brickwork that's in the picture here as it tapers off. And we sort of would be standing about there. But there'd be a bush in the way.
We're going to have to do this again, mate.
Yeah, we're going to have to show you some of these things in the winter. Well, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite wide here, isn't it, the River Lee? I think primarily what's happened is it's already gone through the sewer works. Now the sewer treatment works puts water back into the River Lee, but the water has been treated. So it is incredibly clean at this stage. Now at this stage it's quite wide and it's quite slow running, hence the weed you can see in the river. This is bridge number 17, Throwers End Lane. When this bridge was actually first built, this was called Cooter's End Lane. There is still a Cooter's End Lane just behind us, but for some reason they changed the name. As you can see, it's an ordinary standard brick arch bridge, which was standard upon this line and many other branch lines up and down the country. The bridge itself was removed in the early 1970s to allow for a wider road. As you can see by the curve, it was ever so slightly curved, but there's not much traffic comes up and down here, even today. Here we have another picture of bridge number 17, taken in 1964, around this time of year, June, July time, showing once again a Craven's Class 105 DMU heading down towards Luton. And you can say it's a lovely picture, lovely countryside, which can be replicated, but unfortunately this was probably taken from the Midland mainline and we can't get there anymore. Here we have a copy of the 1923 25-inch Ordnance Survey map of the Hertfordshire-Bedfordshire border. You can quite clearly see the Luton and Dunstable branch line going underneath the Midland main line, then over Cooters End Lane. Right, we have just climbed the embankment, so both of us are a little bit out of breath, but to show you this picture that Geoff and Sue Woodward took many years ago, it's showing the preserved locomotive GNR number 1247 hauled several excursions trains over the line. Here on the 14th of April 1962 it passed the East Hyde over the bridge we just crossed for Luton.
I like it because we're actually stood in the exact spot.
We are.
And you can see it as Andy pulls their picture down. You can see the distance that the train's coming along. And despite the fact that I'm slightly out of breath.
Same as.
And if I just turn around and change the exposure, there we go. You can see the embankment that's gone. It is a stunning day. Probably need to stop for hydration at some point.
Very shortly, mate. Here we've got a picture of an N2 with an up goods train driving up to Welwyn Garden City. You can just make out in this picture the Midland main line, which is again still there now. Unfortunately, it's all overgrown with foliage. But this is an amazing picture taken in the middle of the countryside.
Just about see it in the distance there. It's just a lovely day, isn't it? It's just, we can hear the trains in the background on the Midland to our right.
Yes, to our right now, not to our left as they were before. This is a lovely part of the line because it goes through a cutting, which obviously is still here now. And it's just a lovely, peaceful walk that now is done by many, many people. There's a lot of people from Harpenden walk up this way as far as the bridge just back there and walk back again. It's only a mile or so, and it's a lovely walk in the countryside. The Great Northern found it important enough to run a siding into by the goods shed here. The goods shed, you can see, has got the track run out to it, and just here are the wooden sleepers that created a buffer stop. This is the same place today. As you can see, apart from the track being lifted, very little has changed.
But we can still see the buffer stop, so let's see if we can zoom in on them. Don't know if we can try. And that's what's left of the buffer stop. And just see it at the end, just above the foliage.
Come a little bit further back now from the original picture we've just seen. Here you can see the gate which controlled the siding quite clearly. You can see the shed, the two buildings in the background which are still there now, and the track going off to the left hand side, which was the main branch line heading towards Luthenhoe station and then Luton. Again, the same spot today.
So track heading along that direction. Houses over the background. There we are.
This is the third picture, quite clearly showing the point work. You can see the main branch heading away to the left, the siding going to the right, and the point work here, controlled by two levers. These, one controlled the point work, while the other was a locking points. The reason why that was is if you had a train coming this way and the points weren't locked in, they could, in theory, slip over, which would derail the train. So once the points were made across, they were then locked in. Hence you can see there's 2 levers there. Same place today. And then Luton went in 19... I won't say that though because it goes on too much. This is another picture of Luthenhoe station taken from the end of the platform. You can quite clearly see a Craven's 105 DMU waiting to depart downwards. Sorry. And I'm sure if you look around, yes, there is a heron.
There was a heron. I don't know if he's still there. There he is, in the distance. Let's see if we can zoom in. There he is. He's thinking, I'm going about my own business, you know. I'm trying to hide from you. He's going to lift his head up. No, he's ducked down. You don't want to be on telly. Mr. Heron, lift your head up. Come on. Doesn't want to be on telly. Don't want to be on our YouTube channel. What's that about? Hey? It's not very fair, is it? Although when we're filming, the whole of the British Isles has decided to drive up here. So we'll just show you what that looks like now.
Here we have another picture of...
Told you, everybody on there in the British Isles is driving up this road.
Okay.
Right.
This is a map, the 1923 25-inch Ordnance Survey map, showing quite clearly the route we have just walked. You can see quite clearly.
You can see something quite clearly,
right.
But it ain't the map.
Ain't the map, right. Right, shall we start again?
We can.
Okay.
3,
right.
2.
That's a blooper.
Oop.
Here you can see a copy of the 1925...
What is it?
1923. It even says on it.
23 to 25.
Right.
There we go.
Right. Hang on. Bloopers. Bloopers. Oh. Get in the middle there. Right. Third time lucky.
In 3.
Here you can see the Ordnance Survey map. Right, 4th time lucky. Here.
Let's not bother. Let's just film the train.
Okay.
There we go.
You can't see it.
You can't even see it.
You can't even see it.
Oh, right.
Yep.
I have a bad feeling about this.
No, you'll be all right. Why do I lie to you, mate?
Wasn't that Annie Lennox who sang that? I think I'm being attacked by plants. Right, camera off for this second.
So that the Great Northern decided it was important enough to run a little branch line.
The horses are feeding away next to us. This one looks like he's a superhero.
And the siding turning to the right. You can see...